on the planet, welcome to my new YouTube channel. It's called The Full 100. I decided to start this channel literally a couple of days ago as I got fed up of literally watching very dear friends of mine and including family members being fooled by quite a lot of the crap you're seeing online at the moment, obviously regarding the main issue causing us sleepless nights at the moment, which is the coronavirus. But some other people have scared themselves to beyond any levels that you can even imagine, with the conspiracy theories matching or relating, if you like, then coronavirus to 5G network, which is springing up. So I'd like to address that on my videos. However, this channel isn't going to go down when coronavirus disappears or when we get out the other end of this. I'm going to leave this channel running because there's politics to enlighten people about. There are lies from fake news channels and fake news people that needs to be countered. And honestly speaking, I don't think there is enough channels and enough people inhabiting this space in terms of bending over backwards, if you like, to change the narrative or to give people the truth. So that's what this channel is about, and I hope you'll subscribe to our channel and enjoy the contents. But more importantly, we would like you to pay attention, take what you see on my video and do your own research. Many of these so-called fake prophets, I call them fake prophets, they call themselves prophets. Some of them call themselves experts. They know somebody who's told them the truth and all these types of things. Many of these people have ulterior motives, and many of them really don't care what they're putting out. And those who are putting it out intentionally are the most dangerous of the lot. So The Full 100, my YouTube channel, is here to set the truth, put the truth out there, counter the fake news carriers, and generally fill a space that I think there isn't enough people filling at the moment. So without further ado, let the truth be told and let's get to it. Now, the first topic I'm going to discuss, obviously, is the topic of the moment, which is the coronavirus situation. I want to start firstly by reminding people of a few things. I mean, let's take a test out there for a minute, people. Let me ask you out there to genuinely raise your hands as you're watching this video. If you're watching it, 3 or 4 of you watching this video together, or 2 of you watching this video together, let me put a test out there. How many of you, with a show of hands, remember when Wi-Fi was coming along? How many of you remember when Wi-Fi was introduced? And how many of you remember the noises out there? Bearing in mind, Wi-Fi was introduced before we had social media and all of that stuff properly, okay? How many of you remember the naysayers, the theorists who tried to scare you on Wi-Fi? Show of hands. I do. How many of you remember the noise about 4G? 4G that everyone's saying, oh, 4G is fine now, but we don't want to go to 5G, it's dangerous. How many of you remember the noise about 4G? I do. How many of you remember the noise about microwaves? Your friendly microwave in your kitchen today. Many of you don't remember, do you? But there was a lot of noise. People will get radiation from it. People will die of cancer from it. How many of you remember that? I do too. My point is, by starting from this point, my point is to remind some of you that human beings will protest anything. It's in our nature. There's always an angle for someone. There's always a reason. There's always a motive, if you like, for people as human beings. It's just something we do. People of the world, what you're watching and what you're now spreading is nothing new. There is always some form of objection, some form of scaremongering to anything that's new. Let me explain something to you. If we were now to introduce cars today, if we didn't have cars at all, just try and some of you find it hard to to picture another world, another time. Just like some of you could not picture a lockdown situation, even though it was happening next door in France, in Spain. A lot of people I spoke to was going, nah, it won't happen over it, just because they can't. Try every so often to try and take yourself away from what you know and who you are and go into another space. Completely just go into another space. Okay? Now, try and picture, okay, that we hadn't built cars yet. We hadn't built cars yet. So all you could see on the streets was bicycles, motorcycles, trains, and aeroplanes. But we didn't have cars. Can you imagine cars being introduced now? I'll leave you with that thought for just a couple of seconds. Now, having dealt with the background of where we are as humans, I'm going to now go on to the real issue, which is dispelling some of the crap that we see around. And I'll tell you what the problem really is with our population. See, in the third world, they got so much things to worry about that they do not miss the news. You see places without televisions, listening to the radio, tuning into another country's radio waves to pick up news from outside of their little country or their little region, so they can compare what they're hearing from there, what they're hearing from over there, what they're hearing from there, and bring it all together. That's people in what we would call the less stable countries, maybe. Okay, but they are at an advantage because I tell you something, they are very much more informed than you in the West. Do you know why? Because in the West, we tend to not bother ourselves. I talk to a lot of friends who say, what's politics got to do with me? So I'm not going to vote. Politics has nothing to do with me. Wrong. Politics determines how much you pay in taxes. Politics determines what hours you work. Politics determines if you're a lower wage earner, what your minimum wage would be. Politics determines who travels where. Politics determines what you pay on council tax. Politics sets your rent. Politics sets, even now, for God's sakes, politics has just told us how much bottles of any particular soft drinks you're limited to. That's the politicians doing that. So contrary to what many of you think, politics is actually very, very important. It controls every part of your life. You don't see it because you're not paying attention. So it's time, my people, to start paying attention. You cannot start paying attention when there's an election going on, when there's a big disaster, when there's a pandemic like now, and think you're going to fill in the gap of what you've missed. I'll give you another example. Imagine you're in a classroom. You turned up literally in an hour class, 1 hour class. You turned up 5 minutes before the end of lesson. So you've only caught 5 minutes of a lesson. But then you want someone to fill in the gaps of what you've missed in the previous or in the other 55 minutes of that lesson. Now, imagine you pick somebody who has an agenda. Maybe the agenda is to be to get you and the teacher to argue. Maybe their agenda is to get you to be upset with your best friend who was sat in class. Whatever the agenda is, as long as they have an agenda, they are the worst person to approach to fill in that gap for you. Why? Because although they might fill the gap in, they have an agenda. Same thing applies in the real world. If you as a person, head of a family, whatever, if you've been asleep from January to November, you cannot wake up in December to an incident and think you're going to get the full picture. So one of my main advice that I'm going to be giving on this channel is to encourage people to stay in touch. Life is a race. You need to be upfront and in touch with what's changing around you, what's going on around you, what new deals your government's introducing, or other governments are doing over in their countries that you might be able to judge and think, oh, that might come over to this country, so I best find out a little bit more about it. But what people generally tend to do is from January to November, they're preoccupied with their lives. They don't care nothing about the news. They haven't opened a newspaper in 11 months. And then a pandemic hits in the December, and all of a sudden, they're opening not newspapers, but they're opening their phones, because we have phones today. And what's the first thing you check on your phone? It's not Google. Most people are going to social media. Now, social media is full of rubbish. Social media is full of anybody, without checking anything, saying what they want. And it seems as if the majority of people who are doing this are now firmly in the camp of fooling people. So a few points I want to address on this video, and I've already been going well over 12 minutes. So let me give you a few facts, people. One, did you know that 5G is not the highest G that is in existence at the moment? Many of you didn't know that, did you? Did you know that Norway has 8G? Yeah. Norway has 7 and 8G right now. Norway, Scandinavian country. No one's heard anything about Norway. No one's blaming Norway for any sort of virus, right, flying around. Norwegians are not pulling their hairs out. But Norway has 7 and 8G. Don't believe me? Look it up on the internet. It's a fact. Do you know what Norway's death rate is from coronavirus? Norway's death rate is 71 dead since the crisis started. Yes, read my lips, people. 71 are dead in a country that's got 7 and 8G. Again, don't believe me? Check. Just go to Google. Say, who's got the fastest internet in the world? Is there 7 or 8G? It will come up with Norway. Norway has had 7 and 8G for a long time. Point 2. A lot of people say this thing started in China. Do you know why that rumor started? It started over in America. Trump has a thing about China, and every right-wing person who follows him sees China as the evil guy. And truth be told, China, SARS came from there. They do live a different life. I mean, they eat bats. Of course they do. They eat snakes. And so it's easy to blame those types of people. However, one of the reasons why the rumor that China started this is really because China has the largest network of 5G. Why does China have the largest network of 5G? Because China is the largest country in the world in terms of people. So if you know anything about how internet works, the more people are draining on the internet, or the draining on the output, the slower it gets. Correct? That's just an example. China has the largest network of 5G installations in the world. That's only because of they got the highest number of people. Now, China's 5G network only went completed right across the country. So the last ones were put in November 2019. It takes a while to catch up in any country. However, they've been doing it from a couple of years now, but November of 2019, it finished. Now, November of 2019, so December of 2019 was when Corona started to sort of rear its head. But even the Chinese government didn't know what it was at the time, and were playing catch up with it at the time. I think it went to the late December and very early January that they thought, you know what, we got to go public with it. This is some real thing. Now, this is why a lot of people think China, this thing started in China. Why would that start in China when they've just finished 5G, when Norway, closer to Europe, has 8G? And I'll tell you something else you didn't know. Do you know China is now working on 6G? One generation up from where you think there's a conspiracy theory against you. I'll tell you something else you didn't know. At the last CES show, which is a consumer electronics show, which is held in the US. Do you know there are countries working on 10G right now? You didn't know that, did you? I bet you didn't know 6 and 7 and 8G even existed somewhere in the world. But they're working on 10Gs. You know what countries are working on 10Gs? I'll tell you what countries are working on 10G at the moment. US is being worked on in the US. There a company called Comcast. If you're familiar with the news and you're someone who's in the know, Comcast owns CNN and they own a lot of movie stuff and TV stuff, you know. But they're also telecommunication giants as well. Comcast is more or less at the head of that. You got Mediacom also and Midco. Okay, these are the three leading companies in the US right now working on 10G, my friends, not 5. Forget about 5. 10G. Then you have in the UK, you have Vodafone is leading that development of that. You got Taiwan as well. In Taiwan, they're working on that. The company heading it in Taiwan is Taiwan Broadband. In Argentina, surprise, surprise, they're working on 10Gs. And it's called Telecom Argentina. That's the company that is running it at the moment. So at the moment, do you know how far they've got with this? I'll tell you how far they've reached with this. 10G at the moment is only in labs. So they're working on the laboratory and everything else. However, the field tests are beginning in 2020, this year. 10G is 10 times stronger, faster, and more powerful than 5Gs. Okay? So, people, again, let me recap on something real quick for you. Norway has 8G. 8Gs, guys. How many people have actively got coronavirus? 5,759 active cases. 5,759 active cases. How many dead in total to date? We're in the thousands. America's in the thousands now, right? I mean, Spain, there are 10,000 plus, over 10,000, 12,000. Italy, the same thing, about 14,000, I do believe. The UK, we're around about the 6,000 now. Norway, surprise, surprise, with 8G, guys. 71 dead, 71. Keep that number in your mind. I don't see the Norwegians spreading stuff. The Scandinavians are cool people, you know, they're informed. They're at one with the government. So there's less conspiracy theories going on with them. However, over here in the West, because we've seen our governments lie to us, because we've seen our governments deceive us over going to wars and stuff like that, a lot of you think you can't trust anything they say. Yes, for sure. That's a great defense mechanism. However, you've got to be able to trust someone. Now, how do you get around that? Only way you get around that is by keeping yourself informed. So you know when the governments are likely telling you lies and when they're being honest with you. I'm going to address two things before I shut this video off. First thing was, I'm sure you've all seen the video of the Hong Kong shot video clip that titles it, Hong Kong residents tearing down a 5G tower. That video was fake. I spotted the fakeness of it within 3 seconds of my wife showing me the clip. A friend of ours must have sent it to both of us. I had it on my phone, but I hadn't opened the message that the video was containing. My wife had. She opened it a few minutes before I did. Well, she opened it first. She then said, "Oh my God, have a look at this." Anthony, look. They're taking down the cell site towers, the 5G towers in Hong Kong. I looked at the photo and I looked at it again. And I turned to my wife, I said, people are horrible. I said, this is a lie, sweetheart. So this video has been taken as a clip to serve their purpose when the real situation that this video was involved in was to do with the umbrella revolution in Hong Kong. Those of you who watch the news and keep in touch with world matters will remember that back in 2018, the Chinese government tried to introduce a new law in Hong Kong, so that anyone who gets convicted, or anybody the Chinese government wanted to extradite from Hong Kong back to China for any purpose, legal purpose, like for court matters, if they commit a crime that China wanted to. But everyone knew that the real law was they weren't going to lock up thieves, or they weren't going to lock up fraudsters or anything like that. They were going to lock up political people. Hong Kong's a freer zone. Even though it belongs to China, one system, two countries, okay? One system, two states, basically. Sorry, one state, two systems. Beg your pardon, I got it right the wrong way, excuse me on that. So one state, two systems is the way Hong Kong and China run. So Hong Kong is more or less a Western country on that part, and China is a communist country on the other side. So this was the agreement they went into with the British government when China was handed back Hong Kong. And the revolution itself was called the Umbrella Revolution. So like to represent a peaceful revolution, to represent that everybody, we're all in this together, we're all doing this. There's no old, there's no young, this isn't a students thing, this isn't a radical young people thing, this is a whole country thing. So it was called the Umbrella Revolution. And when I saw that video and I saw umbrellas in that, the next clue I needed to see was black. Now, any of you on watching this can go on Google and put in the Umbrella Revolution. If those of you who watched that video, I really urge you to go back. And what you'll see is you'll see different snapshots, videos of different days, different months, different times, different groups, different areas where this protest was going on. And you're going to see banks destroyed. You would have seen trains destroyed, buses, police cars, schools, buildings, anything that represented the Chinese communist ruling people or establishment was destroyed. So my take was that when I saw black, most of the people in that video were wearing black. Those of you still have the video, can go have a look. And I saw umbrellas. Now ask yourself a good question. If you were going to destroy a 5G tower today, would you have an umbrella, carry an umbrella with you? When it wasn't raining, you can see from the video it wasn't raining. Would you carry an umbrella with you to go destroying a 5G tower? No. But most of you did not stop to think. And even if you did stop to think, you're missing the information that allows you to make an informed decision. How did you miss that? Remember when I said you cannot live from January to November having a blank mind about what's going on in the world, and then something happens in December, and all of a sudden you think you can fill in the gaps of what you've missed in the year. No. So people, you need to stay in touch. It's easier. It's much harder to fool you, okay? If you're in touch with things, it's much harder to fool you than it is if you got a blank mind. Like I've been saying to people only since this started. If you are a blank sheet of paper, then it allows anybody to come and print or write all over your mind. You occupy your mind and fill your mind with information, then you only leave little tiny gaps that somebody might sneak in and corrupt your mind. Okay? I can even go into politics. I'll give you another example. This time in politics. Many of you were fooled when Nigel Farage put out his video about Turkey, or the poster saying 90 million Turks are coming to are joining the EU, and they're going to trample all over England because they all want to come to England. We went, oh my God, Turkey, 90 million people. They all got scared. Now, if you kept up with the news, what you would have known at the time was that the year before, the EU had just, or a couple of years before that, Turkey had just introduced the death penalty. Again, if you keep in touch with the news, you know that the EU does not accept any country that has the death penalty. So while the poster was being put out that these guys are joining the EU, I looked at it and I thought, why is this guy putting out fake news? Nobody was loud enough to say that's not right, that's not right. Yeah, a couple of journalists put the mic in his face, but he was able to defend it. Yeah, but they're going to join. He got away with it because you didn't have a channel like mine. Now, if I had a channel like this at the time, I would have put videos out. Facts. One, Turkey has just been told, Turkey has just brought in the death penalty a couple of years ago. The EU later on said to them, while you got the death penalty in place, we can't even negotiate with you. You can't even come to the table to talk terms. Secondly, they were locking up a lot of journalists at the time, and all Turkey was doing at this point was getting further and further away from being accepted into the EU. But you won't know that because you're not watching the news. So listen, guys, I'm going to wrap up with this first installation of my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember where we are. Subscribe, like our videos. Go and do your research. I'll be putting out another one shortly. I'll probably be putting out 2 videos a day while this is going on. And once this is over, I'll probably put 1 video out a day. We're going to switch about things. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. Okay. As I said, welcome to my new channel. It's called The Full 100. And this is where the truth is told. Okay. Now have a fantastic evening. Stay home. Look after yourselves and stay out of the way of the virus. Thank you. Bye-bye now.